there's just a ton of fun talking material in this movie.
Oh, for real, yeah, and there's a lot more discussion to be had out of it. And to be honest, after my well, I only watched it once, but after my viewing of it, I thought, I don't know that there was a ton there. I mean, I had a couple little ideas, but you guys really brought it. Really, I think that there's so much more that I almost want to do follow up episodes.
I wonder if
or
people
whatever,
that listen to the podcast get that happens a lot. Like have these conversations, guys. Like you don't got to set up microphones. We're the ones dumb enough to do that. But like get your friends together, and if you talk through these things, like there's going to be times where you think a movie has like one thing worth kind of thinking about as a Christian a little bit, and you'll be surprised if you just voice that one thing. There's been so many things that you guys have said today that you might have heard me like jump in suddenly and get really excited because you've made me think of something that I had not even considered about the movie before. I just needed to hear it teased out a little bit by someone else. I don't know if people pick up on that. Like we think about these before we record, and we put a little bit of thought into some notes and things like that. But a good portion is just like you presented something, and now I thought through it for a second, and it took me down a whole other thing that I hadn't even considered before. So yeah, man, have these conversations. I think sometimes we focus in on these conversations are good because you can relate to unbelievers, people in your workplace, at your school. They're watching this movie. You can have that conversation, and great, absolutely. God will use that means to glorify himself. That's awesome. But it can also just be super edifying if you get with a like-minded believer, or even sometimes like a not super like-minded in some ways believer on certain things.
That can be great
and just
too.
use the film as a jumping off point to talk about stuff. Like you would be surprised. Don't write any movie off, and especially if you've got some people to talk about it with, because you'll be surprised what you'll find.
I think that that's the thing, is that we're not like special in any way. I don't think. Like, I mean, I think you guys. I think you guys are. I think you guys are pretty special. But it's not like it's a superpower or anything. Like, especially if you go listen to some of our older episodes, and especially if you listen to anything I say for like the first 100 episodes, it's probably pure crap. Because this is something that I've grown a tremendous amount in, just the way that I look at movies. But it's more. It's not like we just come up with all of these things and we watch a movie and then have all these thoughts about them afterwards independently. That's why this is a group. This would not work well as a one-person endeavor.
No.
Wouldn't work at all, really.
I don't think I could do this as a one-person endeavor.
No, I mean, James did a really good job. He has a lot of these standalone recordings and written stuff and a book.
Well, even I burned out. Come on.
But it's always, I mean, the discussion is so great because there's things that you guys see that I don't see, and vice versa. And
the group helps. Look how much we tapped the group today.
Oh yeah,
and they really prompted us to think through. There's two or three things I hadn't even considered. That you guys are awesome in the group. Brought up your ideas to the table. And man, they helped a lot.
And we used to, like, not to go on about us too much longer, but like I at least used to say, okay, well, what movies can we do? What movies should we do? Oh, we can't do that one. There's not a lot there. We really shouldn't do that one. Now
we just do whatever. Now
we just do whatever,
because you'll find something.
There's something.
You just will find something.
Sonic the Hedgehog, people. We did Sonic the Hedgehog.
Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yeah, I don't think that there's any exceptions that are. I mean, at least unless you're violating your conscience or something like that to watch it.
Sure.
That are going to be. Like Last Jedi. We mentioned Last Jedi earlier as a conscience violator. No, I'm just kidding. But I'm just kidding. I actually liked Last Jedi. But
violated my conscience for good taste.
This did sort of turn into a low-key Last Jedi episode a little bit.
Yeah, it's Ryan Johnson.
It's Ryan Johnson.
Well, something else too. I mean, it's not always about looking for the huge meta overarching narrative piece that you can somehow evangelize from too. Sometimes it's just one good line. I mean, think if this movie had nothing else and just the one line that Benoit Blanc says, I didn't want to miss this one. He says, "The complexity and the gray lie not in the truth, but what you do with the truth once you have it." Like, I just heard that line. Like, wait, is he saying that the truth itself is black and white, and the tough part that we need to wrestle with is not what is truth, but how do we apply it? Like, I got a whole sermon right there.
What's being said? Yeah.
That's something. Yeah, for sure.
Like, I'm
looking forward to.
That's a truism I can. I mean, that's something people could tease out. That'd be a whole conversation with a friend at work. Like, what do you think of that? Is truth black and white? Are we arguing too much over what truth is versus how to apply it? Like, I don't know. Sometimes the conversation is just one good line in a movie.
For sure. Yeah, I feel like, man, that like last 5 minutes we just need to rip out and have like.
I was gonna say, if we ever
Here's
do
what we
like
do.
a clip, maybe we should like just cut that out and put it in something else additional. Because I feel like people need to hear that. Like, it's not just about listening to us pontificate about this stuff. Like, get your friends together, talk about this stuff for yourself. Don't be afraid to say dumb stuff that you're going to think about later and go, actually, that's not a good picture, because I feel like we've done that on the podcast where I'm like, I mean, this is a really cool picture. Well, but then that means this. Oh yeah, that's a terrible picture. Like that'll happen sometimes, but that's part of the fun of it. Just get in there and do it.
Yeah, for sure. And that's a really good segue into our exit, really, which is something we need to be wrapping up in general, is that keep the conversation going. We've got the Popcorn Theology group. It's the Patron Saints group now, in case you've been under a rock for like a year and a half or however long it's been. And so the Patron Saints group, that's just for our Patreon supporters, $1 a month, allows you to influence and choose episodes for the podcast and to be part of some great discussion, contribute like the people you heard from today. And so yeah, keep the conversation going there, at Waffle House, on your Facebook page, wherever else you talk about movies. And in the meantime, keep engaging media from a godly worldview, and remember, you are not a mindless consumer.